all kinds of torturous things, and then we can move it and shift it and bend it because we've warmed it up. Actually, I should probably drop that. And it just gives you that ability to move it and animate it and shift it, bend it, and ever, because you're trying to make all the lines balance and complement each other. So you spend hours and hours and hours moving it, tweaking it, and making the model stand on one toe, which she doesn't like, but it's part of it. And once we resolve the design and got it to work, you then break each figure down. So once this, I've actually joined this all together now because I want to make a set sculpture out of it. But initially, when they were all separate, I could then break them down and separate them and build new armatures and take it up to a new scale. It's a matter thing, but what happens with these things is you become obsessed with the detail of it. In the sense that I spent a lot of time with this piece working on the negative spaces, working on these shapes, because these became very important in the design. And so I was forever making tiny little moves and tiny little tweaks. The next maquette stage, which is the piece I want you to see. This very likely will sit on the shelf and gather dust, but the next piece we're going to take forward into a piece of sculpture. So I will show you that. Just bear with me a moment. Okay, I'll just take this off. Try not to break anything while I do it. And there she is. So this is a larger rendering, and basically as you move up in scale, you get more sort of confident in it, and the image proves itself. If it works small, it doesn't always work large, so you have to keep sort of testing it and moving it and adjusting it. And of course, the larger it gets, the more complicated it gets. And what I wanted to happen with it, I mean, typically with this sort of sculpture, all the arms and the hands would be fused on. But I wanted this, I wanted all the little gaps of light behind the fingers and the backs of the hands, and everywhere you look at it, you can see light, and you can see the different negative shapes forming different patterns. Obviously, this is the scale of the large piece that's trickled on the floor. So that is the scale, is sort of this big. This size is the finished complete sculpture, but this is the intermediary size. So there's obviously a lot more detail on the larger piece, but this is more intimate, and you get lost in it. I can spend hours and hours and hours in a little tiny area, and then when I look into the room, my eyes are blurred because I've been focusing on such a closed piece. And then I think the bronze I'm going to make for this is going to be a little bit taller. I'm going to put on the bottom. Let me just stop this. And it's going to be about so big. I think that from a tabletop will be very with eye contact imposing. And then we're going to make another longer one that goes down to the floor. It's just important enough for that, I think. But once the big piece was finished, I went back to this and went in a much more intense way. So it was strange to work on something large and then small and back in, but it's become a much better piece because of the intensity, because I've resolved so many things with the big piece, and to come back to it and to make it work at this scale has been an interesting challenge. But I'm pleased with it. All the figures are sculpted as nudes, and then they get covered up and locked in, and what to let through and what to let. No. It has to be molded, and then we make a wax from it. So once it's molded, I make a master pattern in resin and work it again, and then the master pattern goes to the foundry, and they make the waxes. Because it's made lost wax. Anything made in bronze has to exist in wax at some point. If we look at her, she's a little, just a little sketch. But what this actually is, you can, if you look in the back, you can see where the wax was painted in. So this existed as a piece of wax, and then it was encased in ceramic and burnt out and fired. But while it was in the wax stage, I was able to come in and do the details. But if you can imagine that lays flat in a mold, and you just paint the wax in, you can still see the brush strokes in the back where the brush has painted the wax in. And it's such an old process. It's the same process the Greeks and the Romans used, and it still stands the test. Exactly with the big sculpture, I spent about 3 weeks doing the wax on the big sculpture, and it's a 7-hour drive to the foundry. It was quite an epic. The Greek myth point really are their daughters of Zeus, and they have various decorative attributes. I'd not really seen it in that light. I mean, they're sisters, and I spent all my life sort of dealing with the mystery of femininity and beauty and the interplay. And it's rarely do I put more than one female figure together. So the thing that's fascinated for me is just interplaying different types of female beauty and playing it off. But it's very much a sisterly relationship. The Greek myth would make one a muse, music, and one literature, and it's a little bit dry, but that's not where this is about. This is about the sort of companionship of women for women, because men, we just don't do that, but women bond together in a different way, I think.